With latest 5-year plan, China takes a bold step into 2022 and beyond. So there's an article by People's World, and we'll be checking out some interesting things of what China's going to do or plan to do in the future, And so China has managed to take stock of its achievements and begin looking confidently into the future. This was exemplified by two documents released this year. In November, the sixth plenary session of the Communist Party of China's 19th Central Committee published a resolution surveying the 100 years of the party's history, comprehensively contextualizing the journey it has been on since its founding in 1921. So it's 100 years. But in the spring, another mammoth volume was published, one which set definitive, tangible goals for the years ahead. So the 14th 5-year plan for 2021 to 25, which was released along with long-range objectives through 2035. In it, China presents a set of targets in key economic, social, and development indicators for the coming half decade, as well as more qualitative statements for the distant horizon. It's highly detailed and worth a close look, if for nothing else than to disabuse oneself of the notions that China's ambitions are opaque. There's a lot of this contrary to popular belief. There is definitely attempted communication going on. One of the most striking conclusions that can be drawn from the new 5-year plan is that growth is no longer the sole metric by which the Chinese economy will be measured. As the country moves into a new stage of development, new set of numbers take on greater significance. You got employment, disposable income, labor productivity, environmental protection, years of education, doctors per 1,000 people, and several other figures are being used to track China's progress in the 14th 5-year plan period. In many ways, these are even more important as they directly reflect how conditions for people are improving and what areas still need attention. All the GDP growth in the world won't matter after all if people aren't living happier, healthier, longer, and more dignified lives. And yeah, that's true. That's the objective of economic growth. To have people living happier, healthier, longer, and more dignified lives. I think one of the areas which China is weak on is doctors per 1,000 people, actually. So it's a place where, so China's gonna track where it's weak at and also track its progress in those areas. High quality development, dual circulation, new development paradigm. These phrases are often dismissed as empty rhetoric in the West. I don't think the West even, the West just completely ignores it. I don't think they even pay attention. But they represent an outlook that is forward-thinking, adaptable, and most critically puts people first. A country that had no interest in its people would make GDP growth the perpetual sole benchmark for economic health, with little attention paid to the quality of life for the average person. Yeah. But most countries run like that can't even achieve that. Because to achieve GDP growth, you need to put the people first, We see the outcome of this philosophy every day in many countries. Stagnant incomes, rising inequality, and an inability to deal with even small-scale financial emergencies without taking on new debt. These are places where wealth is growing as reflected in GDP, but that growth is widely disproportionate, enriching a tiny sliver of the population at the expense of everyone else. That's not the future China wants, and a rational allocation of resources through planning is the only way to prevent it. Each year, China sets goals and meets them, proving the world it is possible to enjoy a stable, sustainable development that benefits all. In a country like the US, where major political decisions seem to happen on a whim, the very notion of a long-term plan can seem like a novelty. Saying China thinks in decades while others countries only think the next election has become a well-worn chestnut among the Western commentariat. It has a measure of truth, but not because of some interactable cultural difference or the peccadilloes, I've never heard of that word before, of parliamentary democracy. Rather, it comes from the orientation of communist parties in general and China's in particular. Its historic stance and organizing principles maintained over a century. As the most advanced elements of the working class in a political organ which holds a decisive leadership role, a Communist Party must act in the interests of that class rather than that of the bourgeoisie. And since the working class represents the vast majority of people in any given country, with all the contradictions and complications that implies, seeing to their needs without a concrete plan in place would be an impossible task. Um, we already know about all of this, really. Electoral chaos is one of the many outward expressions of turmoil from a system where, broadly speaking, dysfunction serves a larger purpose. The ritualistic fracas of electoral politics reflects a deeper phenomenon, namely the anarchy of capitalist production, an environment where every economic actor is looking to maximize immediate gains without thought to the consequences. In that sense, a political system incapable of long-term planning or prioritizing social benefits works entirely to the advantage of the class that holds monopoly power. Keeping the working majority fighting itself through the theater of elections aligns perfectly with the interests of that class, which feels rational, uh, equitable distribution of resources above all else. It is, as I say, a feature, not a bug. So, like I say in many of my comments and stuff, it's by design. It's not an accident or it's not unintentional or anything like that. But China presents an alternative to this sad state of affairs. With its latest 5-year plan, the country has laid out a roadmap for real action in a trying era. Attempts to contain and encircle China have intensified in recent years, and continuing on the path of progress has become a more demanding proposition. Armed with this document, released as it was in a year of great milestones, as well as changes, the Chinese government and people have a blueprint for the next 5 years and indeed the next half generation. It's something the rest of the world could learn from, that is, if parts of it weren't so busy demonizing everything China does. So it's actually originally a document from CGTN. Just a bit different, I think. But yeah, it pretty much covers the whole deal with China's new plans and stuff like that. And yeah, I think China will be a formidable force by the 15th 5-year plan. It'll be pretty incredible. And yeah, so I'll see you next time.